The assassin.
You know I break necks, call me Jack Tate. I have no regrets while your life is fading. I'm a crazy fuck equivalent to Satan. When I'm behind the mic, I feel like the greatest. You know I break necks, call me Jack Tate. I have no regrets while your life is fading. I'm a crazy fuck equivalent to Satan. When I'm behind the mic, I feel like the greatest.
What up, y'all? You're listening to Sports Talk with Tropp, and I'm your host, Katie Tropp. Well, I took so much time off, I almost forgot my little intro there. Usually can just read it right off the bat, and I know exactly what I'm saying. But since, I took these last 3 weeks off, traveling around Europe, almost forgot that shit there. But I did have a good time on my 3 weeks off. Traveled around Europe, went to Amsterdam, and of course smoked a lot of weed there, ate a bunch of good-ass food, then went on to Lausanne, Switzerland, and checked out some of the great, amazing watches that they have. I also did pick up a watch in Switzerland, as you should do. It was a bit too cold for my taste there, especially since we're in August. I almost actually had an asthma attack one day. It was so goddamn cold. So that's unacceptable in my world, but it was still a good time. They also have amazing food in Switzerland. Then moved on to Rome, Italy, where the shopping is absolutely amazing. I am a shopaholic, and so that was like heaven on earth for me. And they also had amazing food, of course. And then rounded off the trip in Santorini, Greece, where it was nothing but sun, beautiful, just a beautiful city, just the way it looks. It's amazing and picturesque. And then, of course, amazing food. So as you could tell, I did do a lot of eating of food and didn't gain a pound either. Six-pack is still intact. I also ended up getting some new ink while I was in Amsterdam as well. It's in honor of my favorite basketball player, Kobe Bryant. If you're familiar with the Hall of Fame logo they made for him, that is what I got tattooed on my arm. So, yeah, had a great time. And so now it's time to get right back at it. I missed a whole lot of sports. Didn't really pay much attention to it because, like I'd said before, when I go on vacation, I kind of remove myself from pretty much all of life's shit because that's what vacation's about. But also, when you're in another country, there's a time difference. And also, when you don't get the same like Sports Center, you don't get the same NFL Network, you don't get the same anything over there. So it's kind of difficult to pay attention to everything that's been going on. But a lot has gone on while I was gone. So let's get right to it. Starting off with the Tropp 10 MLB Power Rankings. Some teams have surged up, but number one remains the same. The Atlanta Braves still absolutely dominating the league. Right now, their record is 80-43. So, yes, they are the first team to hit the 80 wins mark on the season. They're 8-2 in their last 10 games. This past week, they swept the New York Yankees and then took the series against my San Francisco Giants. And they're just really dominating in every single way possible. Ronald Acuna Jr. is having an MVP season, but it's really not all about him. Matt Olson has been the dude for the Braves. This guy has been just raking it in this year. The dude has led the league in home runs and RBIs for the majority of the season, or at least shared. He's just been in the top two, I believe, all season long. Right now, he's batting a .269 with 43 home runs, which is tied for the league lead with Shohei Ohtani. And then he's got 108 RBI, which leads the league. So he's been having an amazing season. And then, of course, Spencer Strider, he has just been having one of the most dominating seasons a pitcher can absolutely have. Starting with last year, I mean, he really has not it's difficult to get runs on this guy, but also the strikeouts have just been phenomenal. He's got 14 wins on the season with a 3.57 ERA and 227 strikeouts on the season, which leads the league. He has led the league the whole way. So the Braves, they are just unstoppable. They look like the team to beat. I predicted them as my World Series champion, and I have not wavered on that at all. While I was gone for 3 weeks, it looks like they just, it was business as usual for the Braves. But a team that has surged up, and they started to get going a little bit before I took my break, and now they are in full force, and that would be the stupid-ass Los Angeles Dodgers. They are 76-47 on the season, 9-1 in their last 10 games, and they've been the hottest team in August. This past week, they took the series against the Milwaukee Brewers and the Miami Marlins, and they are just on fire. Mookie Betts, he started off the season pretty quiet, but the guy has been money ever since, especially the month of August. Right now on the season, he's batting a .298 with 34 home runs and 86 RBI. And then Freddie Freeman has also been having an amazing season. He leads the league in batting average he's second in right behind Arias with a .333 batting average, 23 home runs and 83 RBI on the season. And the Dodgers are getting hot at the right time. They absolutely are dominating the National League West right now, and they have not looked back since they've taken back that lead. Then at number 3 on my Tropp 10 MLB Power Rankings, a team that remains the most consistent on the season, shockingly, the Baltimore Orioles. Overall record of 77-47. They are 7-3 in their last 10 games. This past week, they lost a series to the San Diego Padres, but then they swept the Oakland A's. They've just been the most consistent team from start to finish. They're dominating. Not only are they dominating their division, but they're just dominating the league. They're the best team in the American League right now, and that's pretty shocking to say, but they've done it, and they deserve their respect. I don't know how much I believe in them once the postseason rolls around, but it definitely looks like we're going to be talking about the Orioles come postseason. And, Anthony Santander, he's having a great year right now. He's batting a .248 with 21 home runs and 65 RBI on the season, and he's been their driving force offensively. But this team is just getting it done with pitching, with the offense, with the defense. They are just a really solid, overall good team, and they're dominating the best division in baseball right now. Then at number 4 on my Tropp 10 MLB Power Rankings of the Tampa Bay Rays, overall record of 75-51. They are 6-4 in their last 10 games. This past week, they took the series against the San Francisco Giants and then split the series against the Los Angeles Angels. And even though the Rays they've been playing really well all season, they've had to get over their humps. And the first thing that happened basically right in the middle of my vacation is Shane McClanahan was already on the injured list, but then it was announced that he is done for the rest of the season and going into next season because unfortunately he is having the dreaded Tommy John surgery, which is always about a 12 to 18 month recovery for pitchers. So definitely he's missing the rest of this season. He will not be around for the postseason, and he's definitely going to miss probably the first half of next season, depending on how his recovery goes in the offseason. But unfortunately, they are missing their ace, the dude who was poised to win the American League Cy Young, and he is unfortunately done. But, they've really been able to overcome that. But now the new issue with them is with Wander Franco. This guy, he just signed a huge contract last year. He's pretty much been a huge phenom for the Rays since he came up a couple of seasons ago as a rookie. But he, unfortunately, is being investigated for having relationships with underage girls back in the Dominican Republic. And who knows when this guy's coming back to play, if he ever comes back to play, because those are some pretty serious charges. Not only just, possible like suspension with baseball, but this is possible jail time for the dude. So there's a good possibility we may never see Wander Franco play ever again, but it looks like he's probably done for the rest of the season as well. So the Rays have had to overcome a lot of adversity this season. So far, they've been able to truck on through, but this Wander Franco situation is a big deal, and we'll see what happens with the Rays. But they're in a difficult position, but they still keep on winning. Then at number 5 on my Tropp 10 MLB Power Rankings are the Texas Rangers. Overall record of 72-52. They're 4-6 in their last 10 games. This past week, they took the series against the Los Angeles Angels, but then just got swept by the Milwaukee Brewers. They've really had an up and down season as well. Nathan Eovaldi, he's currently on the injured list, so they're just down yet another pitcher, which just is terrible for them. But they still keep winning. They're still at the top of their division. Adolis Garcia, he's having a great season. He's got 30 home runs on the season with 92 RBI. And then Marcus Semien, he also is having a great season with 277 and 19 home runs and 79 RBI. So the Rangers are treading water. They're able to keep pace, but they're in a difficult division where right now both the Astros and the Mariners, the Astros are kind of up and down at this current point in time, but the Mariners are really, really hot, and we'll get to them in a bit. But the Rangers, while they're treading water, they need to get it going, and they could definitely use Nathan Eovaldi back in their starting lineup. Then at number 6 on my Tropp 10 MLB Power Rankings are the Milwaukee Brewers. Overall record of 68-57. They are 7-3 in their last 10 games. This past week they got swept by the Dodgers, but then they swept the Texas Rangers. Christian Yelich is just having a resurgent season. He's batting at .287 with 16 home runs and 67 RBI on the season. He's really a huge offensive force for the Milwaukee Brewers, basically back in MVP form. And then you have Peralta, who's having a great season pitching. He's got 10 wins with a .397 ERA and 168 strikeouts on the season. So right now the Brewers are the top dog in the Central. Who knows if that's going to remain the same the next couple of months, but we're getting close to the playoff run, and right now the Brewers are dominating their division and really have been the hottest team in that division for the past month and a half now. And then at number 7 on my Tropp 10 MLB Power Rankings are the Seattle Mariners. Overall record of 69-55. They are 7-3 in their last 10 games, and they are the hottest team in the league right now. They are on a 6-game winning streak. This past week, they swept the Kansas City Royals and the Houston Astros. And it's just all about Julio Rodriguez. This guy, he's coming off of a great rookie season where he won the AL Rookie of the Year award. And this guy is currently on a 21-hit streak. And he had 4 games in a row with 4 or more hits, which has only happened, I believe, twice in the history of Major League Baseball. So this guy is just on fire right now. He is the reason why they're winning the way they are. Who knows what's going to happen with the Mariners, because last year, if you'll remember, they made a big run towards the second half of the season and then just ran right into the wall once the playoffs began. So hopefully that's not the case, but Julio Rodriguez was the reason why that happened last year, and he is picking up right where he left off, and he is just taking the Mariners to another place, and we'll see what happens if they're able to even make the postseason. But right now, the Mariners are the hottest team in the league, besides the Braves and the Dodgers, of course. Then at number 8 on my Tropp 10 MLB Power Rankings, I have the Toronto Blue Jays. Overall record of 69-56. They're 5-5 in their last 10 games. This past week, they took the series against the Philadelphia Phillies and the Cincinnati Reds. The Blue Jays are actually they're the streakiest team, and they're up, they're down, and right now they actually have been up basically since I left the country, and they've remained on the upside. Even though they're 5-5 in their last 10 games, they're still playing pretty well. They did just get Bo Bichette back from injury, so that's a big deal. But Vlad Guerrero, he's just having a great season, batting .265, 18 home runs, 72 RBI, and then they're getting it done with starting pitching as well. Chris Bassett has had a phenomenal couple of weeks, or to a month actually. Right now on the season, he has 12 wins with a .392 ERA and 143 strikeouts. So the Blue Jays are right in the thick of things. We'll see if they're able to keep it going. Because like I said, right now is the playoff push, because we're here in August. The playoffs begin in October, of course, but this is the time of year where if you start to fall behind or if you get really streaky in the wins, that's a good thing. But if you start to lose, that's a bad thing. And right now the Blue Jays are on the winning side of things, but that could always change with them on a dime. Then at number 9 on my Tropp 10 MLB Power Rankings, a team that's been that started off the season really hot and then cooled off, but they seem to be back, getting back in stride. At least it would be the Arizona Diamondbacks. Overall record of 64-61. They are 7-3 in their last 10 games. This past week, they took the series against the Colorado Rockies and the San Diego Padres. Zach Gallen has got back on track. He did have a couple of poor starts there last month, but He is back at it. He's got 13 wins on the season with a 3.17 ERA and 168 strikeouts. And then Christian Walker, this guy is raking it in for them offensively. He's batting .274 with 28 home runs and 84 RBI. And this team, they are streaky, but and they really seem to have lost their grip on the National League West. But I feel like they're a good shoe-in. Or have a good shot, at least a wild card chance, but they have really fallen behind, but they seem to be getting back on track at this current point in time in the season. And then rounding out the top 10 MLB Power Rankings, a team we have not discussed yet, but one of the hottest teams in the league, at least at this current point in time, and that would be the Chicago Cubs. Overall record of 64-59. They are 6-4 in their last 10 games. This past week, they took the series against the Chicago White Sox and the Kansas City Royals. And Cody Bellinger has had a huge resurgence with this team. I mean, he was pretty much shit the last couple of seasons with the Dodgers, so they just let him go. And then he went and signed with the Cubs, and he is having a resurgence. He's batting a .324 with 20 home runs and 64 RBI on the season. He has just been a huge offensive force for the Cubs all season long. And then turning to the pitching side of things, Justin Steele, this guy has been great from start to finish, even in their downtimes. This has been their most consistent pitcher all season long. He's got 14 wins with a .280 ERA and 127 strikeouts on the season. So the Cubs, they're looking pretty good right now. They are in a very weak division, so who knows? They could get it going here, and we'll see if they're able to make a playoff run. And since, we are getting close to the playoffs, I will be doing playoff updates every week now. And so let's turning to the American League East right now, the Baltimore Orioles. They currently have a 3-game lead on the Tampa Bay Rays. Then in the AL Central right now, the Minnesota Twins have a 6-game lead over the Cleveland Guardians. And then in the American League West, the Texas Rangers currently have a 2.5-game lead over the Houston Astros. And like I said, the Seattle Mariners are surging right now, so who knows what's going to happen there in the West. Things could get shaken up at any moment. All of those divisions, though, are pretty damn close, because if you really look at it, the East, most difficult division in baseball, in my opinion, at least. And Baltimore's pretty much been holding it down all season. And the Rays, I don't know if they're going to be able to overcome all the issues they have. So I kind of feel like Baltimore's going to hold on to it, but it's going to be a battle till the end. Then you turn to the Central, and it's just been back and forth between Minnesota and Cleveland's always been that team where it's the last month of the season, and they just have this crazy win streak, and then they take the division. So who knows what's going to happen there. And then, of course, the West. The West is just getting stacked up. The Rangers have pretty much dominated it for the majority of the season, but you got the Astros, the defending champs, and then you've got the Mariners, who are just really, really hot right now. Things can get crazy there. And then the top 3 teams right now in the American League for the wild card teams, the wild card spots. Right now, the top 3 spots would go to the Tampa Bay Rays, the Houston Astros, and the Seattle Mariners, with the Toronto Blue Jays only a half game back, and then the Boston Red Sox 3 games back. So it's looking like the American League's playoffs, these are probably going to be the teams, more than likely. Toronto might sneak in, but who knows what, we do still have 2 months left of the season, but things can change on a dime. And then turning over to the National League East pretty much went to the Braves because right now they have a 13.5 game lead over the Philadelphia Phillies. So I think we could safely say the National League East belongs to the Braves. Then the National League Central, right now the Milwaukee Brewers have a 3-game lead over the Chicago Cubs. And then the National League West, the Los Angeles Dodgers have an 11.5 game lead over the San Francisco Giants. So I kind of feel like the East and the West are going to the Braves and the Dodgers, and the Central, anything can happen in that division because Milwaukee's on fire right now. Chicago's starting to surge. The Reds have had their moment. The Pirates have had their moment. And then even though the Cardinals are terrible, who knows? They could get it going. And then turning to the National League wildcard spots, right now the top 3 spots would go to the Philadelphia Phillies, the San Francisco Giants, and the Chicago Cubs. But there are quite a few teams that are only 1 game back, so the wild card in the National League is definitely going to come down to probably the last couple of games of the season. Right now, Arizona's a game back, the Cincinnati Reds are a game back, and the Miami Marlins are a game back. So the National League is a lot more convoluted than the American League, especially in the wild card spot. But I feel like anything can happen. But two teams that look like they are more than likely going to miss the playoffs at this point in time are the New York Yankees, who are currently on an 8-game losing streak. I mean, this season has been dreadful for the Yankees. I mean, they have a lot of good players, and it's not that Aaron Judge was injured. This team is just terrible. They can't get it going at all. So who knows what the hell's going on with this team, but if they miss the playoffs, you can bet Aaron Boone ain't going to have no job next year, and he shouldn't. He shouldn't. I kind of feel like they probably made a mistake sticking with him, but they're sticking with him, and if they don't make the playoffs, bye-bye Aaron Boone. And then it looks like we're not going to see Shohei Ohtani as well, because right now the Los Angeles Angels are way far behind for both the wild card and their division. And unfortunately, that sucks just because Ohtani is still having an amazing season. He's tied for the league in home runs with 43 home runs, 89 RBI, and batting a 306. And then pitching right now, he's got 10 wins on the season with a 3.17 ERA and 165 strikeouts, which is top 5 in the league. So the guy is having an MVP season. He's probably going to win the MVP in the American League. I kind of feel like he should, I mean, with all he's done. But his team is terrible, and it sucks because chances are we're not going to see him in the postseason. All right, so now let's turn over to basketball. We've had a little bit going on, and surprise, surprise, there is drama with James Harden, as I predicted. I was shocked when he actually picked up his option with the 76ers. I wasn't really shocked because he was getting a lot of money for picking up the option, but the drama that has now unfolded, and basically he's demanding a trade. I knew that was going to happen. I didn't think he wanted to play with the 76ers for whatever reason. And he decided to pick up his option, and now he's saying, I'm not going to come to training camp, and he's demanding a trade. And there's even now rumors that Joel Embiid's going to be asking for a trade as well. So shit is blowing up in Philadelphia as expected, because that's what happens with James Harden. That's all the dude is known for. You know, he scores a lot of points. He's great offensively, but he's horrible defensively. He's horrible in the locker room, and it feels like every team he plays with, he rips apart the locker room, and he's not a team player. He's not really even a championship-driven guy. He just is what he is. He takes drama with him everywhere he goes, and that's what it's been like in Philadelphia. That's why I was shocked that he picked up the option, the player option on his contract, but I am not shocked that he's demanding a trade. And so we'll see what happens here, if the Sixers actually trade him or not, or if this just rolls on into the next season. But, you know, that's what happens when you're dealing with crybaby-ass James Harden. But in positive NBA news, they did release the schedule for the 2023-2024 season. So we're going to be opening up the season on October 24th with the rematch of the Western Conference Finals between the Los Angeles Lakers and the Denver Nuggets. And then we're going to get the following game after that will be the Phoenix Suns versus the Golden State Warriors. Big deal with this is that CP3 will be playing against his old team. He is now a Golden State Warrior, and the Phoenix Suns got rid of him in the offseason, so that's kind of like a revenge game for him. Then, of course, they're doing the stupid in-season tournament this year. Who knows? Obviously, I'm going to give it a chance, but I'm not really feeling it. It sounds gimmicky and stupid in my opinion, but that will begin on November 3rd and run through December 9th. And with this NBA in-season tournament, all the wins and losses do count in your regular season record, so it does count for something. You do get a stupid little trophy for winning the in-season tournament, but it just sounds dumb to me. I understand the NBA needs to try and get ratings, especially when you're competing with football during that time of year, but it just sounds dumb to me. But they'll be doing that, and then, of course, we all know the NBA season really kicks off, and people really start paying attention on Christmas Day, and so the Christmas Day games are beginning with the Milwaukee Bucks versus the New York Knicks, the Golden State Warriors versus the Denver Nuggets, the Boston Celtics versus the Los Angeles Lakers, the Philadelphia 76ers versus the Miami Heat, and then rounding out Christmas Day is going to be the Dallas Mavericks versus the Phoenix Suns. So that's what we got going on in the NBA. Then we also had a big fight over the weekend, UFC 292. We now have us a new bantamweight champion, Sugar Sean O'Malley. Upset Aljamain Sterling over the weekend with a technical knockout with 51 seconds in round 2. He took out Aljo, and I wasn't that surprised. I actually leaned more towards Sterling, but I was kind of thinking it could be an upset just because, as I've mentioned before with Sterling, his championship status, while it's deserved and earned, he did have a couple of, weird matchups where he just was basically given the win due to freak injuries and things like that. So I wasn't always convinced he was as dominating as he was. And then, O'Malley has just been a guy who's been on the come up. I think he came into the UFC in 2017. So basically, since he hit the UFC, he's been climbing ever since, and he's a fan favorite. It was one of the biggest pay-per-view draws for the bantamweight division, and it really is in credit to him. While Sterling is an excellent fighter, he's not as much of a draw as Sean O'Malley is, obviously. And so we have us a new champ right now. So we'll see what happens, how long he's able to retain it. But Aljamain Sterling has now officially lost his bantamweight title. And then in a little bit of college football news, because that is right around the corner, that actually begins next weekend. But it was announced today that the coach of the Michigan Wolverines, Jim Harbaugh, he has been suspended for 3 games. This is a self-imposed suspension by Michigan. Basically, over the last year or so, the NCAA has been investigating Michigan on some recruiting scandal from 2020. And, it was announced like a couple weeks ago that he was going to be suspended, and then they reneged on the suspension. And then it was announced today or yesterday that he's going to miss the first 3 games of the season. So we'll see if that affects Michigan at all. They are definitely one of the top teams in college football this season, but, an interim coach could probably just step right in. But Harbaugh is a good coach, and so we'll see if that ends up having an effect on the season for the Michigan Wolverines. And now, speaking of football, while I was going on vacation, preseason football finally kicked off, so it is officially football season. And with that being said, now it's time to make my 2023 NFL season predictions. So today's show, we're going to begin with the NFC and the AFC East teams. And then on Friday's show, we'll do the NFC and AFC West. Then next Monday, we'll do the North. And then next Friday, we'll do the South. And then the Monday before the season begins, I will make all my postseason and ultimately my Super Bowl predictions. So let's get it started with the 2023 NFL season predictions on the NFC East. Of course, I got to start with the NFC East because I am a Dallas Cowboys fan, so I always want to talk Cowboys first and foremost. With the NFC, a big change, obviously, is that Aaron Rodgers was traded from the Packers to the Jets. So that changes the whole trajectory of the NFC. I feel like the NFC is up for grabs with any team. And so with that being said, I feel like my Cowboys are going to be one of the best teams in the NFC. Just because they are returning the majority of their team from last season. And so I do think they're going to win the division. I think they're going to go 13-4 on the season. A couple of the additions they made in the offseason, they picked up wide receiver Brandon Cooks. But the big addition, I believe, is the addition at cornerback with Stephon Gilmore. He's been one of the top cornerbacks in the league for the majority of his career. And he's a ball hawk, and I feel like he's the missing piece that we needed in the secondary. Because the secondary is very solid, but we just needed one more lockdown guy. Diggs is a ball hawk, but he's not a lockdown guy. Stephon Gilmore is not only a ball hawk, but he's a lockdown motherfucker. You cannot get past that dude. So if he plays at the level he's known to play at, the Cowboys defense is going to be solid this year. I expect Micah Parsons to be right back at it. I expect him to have an MVP type season. As I mentioned with Trayvon Diggs, he's back there. He actually got a contract extension, so he doesn't even have to think about money, and he just has to go worry about his play. I expect him to get back at it. But then on the offensive side of the things, we no longer have Zeke Elliott back there. We're going all in on Tony Pollard, which I really do like. And then we have this new guy, Deuce Vaughn, who's been really solid during training camp and the couple of preseason games he's played in. I really like this guy. So I kind of feel like the running back position is just going to be all Pollard, but we're going to see because the other guys, the backups, a lot of them got a spark to them. So I'm really liking what I'm seeing for the running back position. And then I just feel like CeeDee Lamb, he's going to have a huge season. You know, I don't want to say breakout year, but I feel like he's going to be that dude. I feel like he's finally going to step up and just be the guy who Dak could just throw it up to and make the plays every time. Dak and Brandon Cooks have had some good chemistry as well, beginning in training camp and moving on into the preseason. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens from the Cowboys this year, but I do think they're going to be one of the top teams in the NFC. And I know you're thinking deluded Cowboys fan, but you know what? The NFC is up for grabs. The Cowboys are returning a really solid core, and I just think they're going to take advantage of the NFC this year, and they're going to be one of the top teams in the NFC. Then in the NFC East, I feel like the Philadelphia Eagles are going to come in second place. I think they're going to have an 11-6 season. I don't expect them to have a huge Super Bowl hangover. I feel like they're going to have a kind of Super Bowl hangover, meaning I feel like they're going to start the season off slow and then get it going during the second half of the season. And so that's why I've got them coming in at 11-6. I'm not completely writing them off just because they are a good team. They actually picked up DeAndre Swift in the offseason, which made their ground attack even better, and they were the number one ground attack in the league last year. So they only added to that. But their big question, I feel like, is going to be the defensive side of the ball. Are they going to be as stout as they were last year? Because they got a lot of old guys back there. They got a lot of hobbled guys, and then they also are missing their interception leader last year. God, I'm drawing a complete blank on his name, but he's now with the Lions, and so I feel like those are going to be the kind of questions for the Eagles. But I feel like they're going to start the season off slow and then get it going the second half of the season and make a nice little run at the end of the season. But with the way the NFC is this year, I can't completely write the Eagles off as a non-contender who's going to suffer an extreme Super Bowl hangover. I just think it's going to start off slow, and then they'll get going in the second half. Then finishing in third in the NFC East, I have the New York Giants. I had them finishing 9-8 on the season. They did add Darren Waller in the offseason, which I think was a very positive move. But, I mean, really, this team is not good. Daniel Jones, they did re-sign him in the offseason for some odd reason. They did re-sign Saquon Barkley, which they had to do. Because if you're signing Daniel Jones, he's not going to be effective without Saquon Barkley. So if Barkley's able to remain healthy, and the addition of Darren Waller does take some pressure off of him, but outside of that, Barkley and Waller are pretty much their only offensive weapons they have. If you look at their wide receiver core, it is very, very thin. The only guy I could name was Sterling on their list of wide receivers. So I don't think they're going to be good offensively outside of Waller and Barkley. And then defensively, tons of question marks remain, in my opinion, besides Thibodeau. Other than him, everybody else is very questionable. So I just kind of feel like the Giants are going to have a very mediocre, middle-of-the-road season. And then rounding out the NFC East, I have the Washington Commanders. I actually feel like they're going to be one of the worst teams in the league, vying for the first pick in the draft, which I think is what they want. I've got them going 3-14 on the season. Their starting QB this year is going to be Sam Howell. Yes, who the fuck is Sam Howell? So that's who they're going with to start the season. And if you look at their roster, ain't shit going on with this roster. So I just kind of feel like the Commanders, they have a new owner. They just have a new mindset now. And I kind of feel like they want to tank this season and they basically just want to completely rebuild. So I feel like they're trying to get the first pick in the draft next year, or at least a top 5, so they can draft another quarterback and just completely revamp this whole team. But I am not expecting shit from the Washington Redskins football team Commanders. I'm expecting this team to be terrible as hell, and it's beginning with their starting quarterback of who the fuck is Sam Howell. Now moving on to the AFC East. And the team I think that's going to win the AFC East this year, I believe, is going to be the Buffalo Bills yet again. I think they're going to have a 12-5 season. But the question with the Bills is, because they're still a good team. They've got Josh Allen, who just continues to get better every year. The Stephon Diggs drama seems to be now behind them. He really was pushing to get a new contract or get traded in the offseason, but it didn't work out for him. But he has shut his mouth. He is showing up to practice. And he has said as of today that the contract situation is not a big deal at this point in time, and he's just focused on winning on the field. So all their drama is behind them. But the thing with the Bills is, can they take the next step? Last year, they were my Super Bowl pick. I expected them to take the next step last year, and they really took a step back, in my opinion. I actually think the Bengals are a better team. Like, if it's an AFC championship game between the Bills and the Bengals, I'm more than likely picking the Bengals because they've been there before. They've proven they can go to the big game, whereas the Bills so far have proven they're a great regular season team, but once the postseason hits, who the fuck are they? And that's really the big question with them. I expect them to still be a really good regular season team this year, but we'll see what happens when the postseason rolls around with them. I will say, though, they did not do themselves any favors in the offseason. I felt like their biggest weakness last year or the last couple of seasons has been the running back position because their leading rusher has been Josh Allen, and that just can't happen. Your quarterback should never be your leading rusher. It's cool if he's a rusher, and that's a nice weapon you got, but he should never be your leading rusher. And they didn't really do much at the running back position to improve. So we'll see if that's an issue for them this year, but I do expect the Bills to still be a very solid team. Then finishing in second place in the AFC East, I have the New York Jets. I have them finishing 11-6, and that's, of course, because they traded for Aaron Rodgers in the offseason. They also added Dalvin Cook at the running back position, and they should be getting Breece Hall back as well. Their rookie phenom last year, who unfortunately had the ACL injury, so they should be a good team this year. Who knows if they're a Super Bowl contender, of course. I mean, I feel like Aaron Rodgers does elevate you to that level, but until you prove it, you ain't shit. And the Jets have been a laughingstock of a team, just like my Cowboys have been for many years now. The Jets are actually more of a laughingstock than my Cowboys because the Jets, the last time they won a Super Bowl was Super Bowl III, and the last time the Cowboys won was Super Bowl 30. So, the Jets have been more of a historical folly team, more so than my Cowboys. But they're both that team where they have the expectations and then they just completely blow their wad. But I feel like Aaron Rodgers definitely makes them a legit team. I think I'm not ready to give them the division just yet, but I would not be surprised if they make this a battle for the division with the Bills all season long. Then I think the Dolphins are going to finish in third place in the AFC East. I've got them going 9-8 this season. Of course, their big addition during the offseason was Jalen Ramsey. Unfortunately, he already got injured, and he's out till at least December. So, unfortunately, their big pickup, which they needed in the offseason, he's done for the majority of the good first half of the season, at least. But this year is definitely going to be all about Tua Tagovailoa. I feel like this is a make or break year for him, no matter what happens, whether he gets injured, whether he fails, whether he succeeds. If whatever happens, it is make or break for him this year. If he fails this year, if he does not get his team to the playoffs, if he doesn't at least have like a very solid year where he's the guy, Dolphins got to get rid of him. They have to move on next year. Now, if he proves he is that dude, then you got to give him at least another year. But I kind of feel like this is absolutely a make or break year for Tua. And like I said, whether it's due to injury, even if he does suffer more injuries, if you're the Dolphins and you don't make the playoffs with him this year and he doesn't have a solid year, you have to move on from him next year. So that's what I'm looking at with the Dolphins this year. And then rounding out the AFC East, the New England Patriots. I don't think this team has done shit to improve upon anything. I think they're going to go 7-10 this year, so be yet again another middle of the road team. Bill Belichick actually is a couple of wins away from being the all-time winningest coach of all time, so that's a big deal. But that's about the only thing the Patriots have to look forward to this year. Mac Jones, in my opinion, I never believed in him, no matter where he was going. And so far, he's proven that he's a very mediocre quarterback. And really, the Patriots didn't do any favors for him in the offseason. Their biggest signing in the offseason was Juju Smith-Schuster, who's a decent wide receiver, but he ain't your number one wide receiver. And he is their number one wide receiver. So I kind of feel like you're going with him as your number one, with Mac Jones as your quarterback. And, they do have a solid ground attack. They have a good offensive line. Then, of course, you have Judon, who was phenomenal last year defensively. But overall, the Patriots are just a terrible team. And I expect them to continue to be terrible in the 2023 season. I'm not expecting them to make the playoffs yet again, which is just crazy to say, but that is how it is, especially with the addition of Aaron Rodgers in your division. Now you've got Josh Allen and Aaron Rodgers. You got to face twice a year. So good luck with that. So those are my predictions for the NFC East and the AFC East. So like I said, Friday's show, we're going to move on to the NFC and the AFC West teams and talk about my predictions there. And I'm back, ready to talk sports, ready to get back to football. And so I will talk to you fools on Friday.